there is something weird, despite that, about the transgender question, right? There is something going on that's beyond the sort of liberation of fluidity. Something else seems to have happened, where many young people in this country now, there's a percentage increase in the number registering for clinical interventions on transgender questions has increased enormously. There's a certain fashion in schools of some sort, and it's a nerve-wracking business. If you're going to get no platformed in this country at university, you know, Germaine Greer-like, regardless of what one thinks of Germaine Greer, the point is you only have to touch on this question. Ian McEwan, who is completely right on liberal, a novelist, dared to say the slightly wrong thing, and suddenly he kind of has to apologise and is kind of ridiculed and shamed. So I don't want to get you to say anything you don't believe, but I'm interested in it because I want to be for liberation. I'm not going to stop anyone dressing how they will. But there's something weird about lots of young women wanting to be young men and lots of young men wanting to be women. I don't feel as though it's a great step forward myself. Thoughts?
Well, I say in the introduction to my new book, my new collection, my particular transgender rebellion came at a time when there wasn't these ideas in the air, that the moment you are dissatisfied with the limitations of your present gender definition, that there is this enormous mechanism waiting to alter your body, to halt puberty, to slow your puberty down. People, all very well-meaning and very sympathetic, are there to provide surgical intervention and potential, permanent changes in your body with which there's no going back. Okay, for me, a sex change operation opens one door but closes many others. Right? So I personally believe that anyone who collaborates in an intrusion into a developing child's body and mind is guilty of child abuse, a crime against humanity, okay? Because that child is not prepared to make such a decision, okay? I think that such decisions about sex reassignment surgery must wait when one attains a majority, which would be, it seems to me, a minimum of age 18. I'm very concerned with this because I think that it's become a fashion, okay, that the transgender definition has become a kind of convenient label for young people who may simply feel alienated, okay, culturally for many other reasons, okay. So that in the 1950s they might have become a beatnik, in the 1960s they might have become a hippie and taken mind-expanding drugs, okay. And so today you're encouraged to think that it's an alienation is because you are not totally defined, identifying with your particular inherited gender definition. So I'm very concerned about this. I think that a lot of it, I think that the collaboration of the bureaucratic machinery with it has to do with the assault on masculinity, okay? Okay, you see, gender doesn't really exist. It's not really polarity. I mean, everything's all about expanding women's rights, but also terminating men, okay, and defining men out of existence. Masculinity is by definition toxic, okay? Masculinity doesn't exist. And you see, this is the proof of it. Now, I began all of my studies, my book Sexual Personae began as a dissertation at Yale graduate school on androgyny. I've always been fascinated, attracted, to the subject of androgyny, and that's what sexual personae is. I explored it in history, but the more I explored it, I realized that that historically, the movement toward androgyny occurs in late phases of culture, okay, as a civilization is starting to unravel, okay, and that you can find it again and again and again through history in the Greek art, okay, you can see it happening. All of a sudden, okay, there's a kind of the sculptures of handsome nude young men athletes that used to be very robust, okay, in the archaic period suddenly began to seem like wet noodles, okay, toward the end, okay, and that the people who live in such periods, a late phase of culture, whether it's the Hellenistic era, whether it's the Roman Empire, whether it's the mauve decade of Oscar Wilde in the 1890s, whether it's Weimar Germany. People who live at such times, okay, feel that they're very sophisticated, they're very cosmopolitan, okay, and homosexuality, heterosexuality, so what, anything goes, and so on. All right, but from the perspective of historical distance, okay, you can see that it's a culture that no longer believes in itself, okay, and then what you invariably get are people who are convinced of the power of heroic masculinity, okay, on the edges, whether they're the Vandals and the Huns, okay, or whether they're the barbarians of ISIS, okay, you see them, starting to mass on the outsides of the culture, and that's what we have right now. That there is a tremendous and rather terrifying disconnect between the infatuation with the transgender movement in our own culture and what's going on out there, okay, all right? And so I mean, that's why I'm concerned. I feel it's ominous, okay? I question whether the transgender choice is indeed genuine in every single case. But what concerns me is when well-meaning adults, believe that they're helping people by making it easier some permanent change in the body from which there is no going back. For example, Brown University, one of the elite Ivy League schools in the United States, put sex reassignment surgery on its student insurance program. Okay, so that it becomes they can get a sex change in college. And I thought, oh my Lord, okay, I feel that's evil. Okay, because what it does to young people today facing an uncertain job market. Okay, what it says, people who are questioning their gender while they're at Brown University suddenly feel, well, it's like economically a better judgment for me to move now on this rather than to wait till I don't have a job and living in my parents' basement. Okay, so actually, the adult community trying to be understanding, okay, is, I think, involved in possibly making a permanent change in someone's life that could have tragic consequences.